Have you ever cried in prayer without knowing exactly why? Tears that arrive without warning in a silent moment while your heart tries to stay firm, yet something deeper begins to open inside you. Maybe you tried to hold back the crying. Maybe you thought it was just emotion, but for some reason those tears didn't feel ordinary. They came from a place you couldn't explain, as if something within you was finally finding the courage to breathe. There are moments when the soul speaks louder than the voice, when words can't come out, but the heart insists on pouring itself out, and the only possible language is the water that runs down your face. And it is exactly there, in that silence filled with truth, that God draws near, not to judge your fragility, but to touch the place you tried to hide even from yourself. We don't always cry because something hurt us. Sometimes we cry because something inside us has finally been reached. Today, we're going to walk through a truth that many people feel but few truly understand. The tears you shed in the presence of God are not accidental. They are not emotional failures nor signs of losing control. They are movement. They are opening. They are the first breath of something God is awakening inside you. When tears arrive, something surrenders. When something surrenders, something opens. And when something opens, God begins to work where you once allowed no entry. This video is not about sadness. It is about transformation. It is about the moment when prayer stops being just words spoken outwardly and becomes something lived inwardly. When tears become prayer, when vulnerability becomes communion, when the most sensitive place of your soul becomes exactly the place where God chooses to shape, heal, and realign. It is not fragility, it is fertile ground. If you've ever wondered why you cry when you try to be strong, why tears appear when you attempt to pray in silence, or why your heart loosens right when you most want to pull yourself together, there is purpose in that. Tears reveal that something inside you is giving space to what God wants to open. It is in that tender moment that the soul begins to see what used to be shadow, and the divine presence finds a small opening to enter with gentleness. So allow this moment to slow your breathing. Let the weight of the day roll away. Feel the environment around you grow lighter, not because your circumstances changed, but because God touches what you feel before He touches what you live. What He does in the heart is always deeper than what you perceive on the surface. And sometimes a single tear carries more prayer than all the words you've tried to arrange. There is a verse that describes this divine closeness. In the moments when the soul pours itself out, the Lord is near to the brokenhearted. Psalm 34:18. It's not just a beautiful phrase, it's a spiritual reality. God draws near to what is breaking, not to increase the pain, but to rebuild what can only be restored when truth finally escapes through the eyes. And it's in this spirit that we walk together now, understanding why so often your tears are more than emotion. They are the way God opens something inside you. There are moments when tears arrive not as collapse, but as an opening that happens without warning. They slide down the face with gentleness, almost as if they were carrying unexpected relief. It is in that silent instant that the soul lets its defenses fall. Not because it gave up, but because it finally found space to be honest before God. When someone tries to keep everything under control, but the divine presence touches the exact point of sensitivity, something loosens on the inside. The rigidity fades, and the heart begins to reveal what it had been hiding even from itself. This kind of crying is not weakness, it is depth. It is the soul finding the courage to be fully seen. And it is precisely there, in that moment of quiet surrender, that God draws near with tenderness. He does not come to demand strength, but to embrace what is breaking. He sees where pain has accumulated, where hope has grown tired, and where the soul longs for rest without knowing how to ask for it. Each tear becomes an invitation for Him to enter, A broken heart reveals paths that were once closed. As the soul opens, it begins to see what was once in shadow. A new sensitivity awakens. What was heaviness moves aside to make room for lightness. Prayer stops being only an external effort and becomes an internal movement, small but profound. And so, tears become a marker. Something breaks, not to destroy, but to release. The person may not fully understand what is happening, but God knows exactly. He sees through the cracks that have opened. He touches where resistance has fallen. He works in the space that the crying has just revealed. This is how each tear becomes a door, a threshold between what once appeared as strength on the surface and what now becomes truth within. It is not the end of anything. It is the beginning of a process God has been leading long before the person realized it. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Psalm 34:18. It is in this nearness that the path to the next step begins to form, even when everything still appears silent. There are movements of God that only happen when the soul finally stops fighting to appear strong. As the tears fall, the heart enters a rare state of honesty. And it is precisely in this environment, soft, real, vulnerable, that God works most deeply. He doesn't need noise or explanations. He only needs sincerity. Vulnerability is not the end point, but the soil where grace finds room to act. What seems weak on the outside becomes opportunity on the inside. God touches inner layers that even the heart didn't know how to access. He adjusts what was misaligned, dissolves old tensions, and cleans perceptions clouded by fear or hurry. It is in silence that this work happens, not the silence of abandonment, but the silence of spiritual precision. While someone imagines that nothing is happening, God is reorganizing thoughts, calming emotions, and treating wounds that were not formed overnight. He works as one who knows every detail, without haste, without strain, and without failing. Vulnerability becomes the place where internal resistance begins to fade. The heart, once rigid, becomes soft. The vision, once blurred, begins to clear. The soul, once heavy, begins to breathe. It is as if God rewrites something within the person, with the delicacy of one who knows exactly what needs to be restored. Just like the seed that germinates hidden in the soil, much of what God does cannot be seen at first. But it is there, in the deep, quiet darkness of an opening soul, that He prepares the breakthrough. Transformation begins long before any external evidence appears. The person may think they are just crying, but God is shaping what will come next. He is aligning emotions so that future decisions become lighter. He is untying inner knots so that prayer can flow again without obstruction. He is restoring confidence so the heart can believe once more in what He has already promised. In quietness and in trust shall be your strength. Isaiah 30:15. And it is in that quietness, soft, silent, almost imperceptible, that God sets in motion what will later become clarity, courage, and renewed life. There are prayers that do not need words. They happen in the very moment when emotion overflows and the heart pours itself out without being able to organize its thoughts. Tears fall, not as loss of control, but as language. It is the soul speaking directly to God, without intermediaries, without filters, without fear of being misunderstood. When someone tries to say something but the words refuse to form, God still understands everything. He reads what the emotion expresses. He interprets what the heart cannot verbalize. And in this kind of silent prayer, communion becomes deeper than when someone tries to craft perfect sentences. What matters there is not eloquence, but truth. Tears shed in the presence of God create immediate nearness. It is as if heaven leans in a little closer. As the soul opens in this way, it breaks through layers that once prevented faith from breathing. And God, who sees in secret, responds within, not always with words, but with presence. Silent prayer is often more sincere than the one that tries to explain everything, because it is born from the exact place where the soul does not know how to pretend. Tears carry the raw truth of what one feels, fears and longs for. They reveal, drop by drop, what the heart had been storing for too long. In this kind of surrender, communion happens before any request. The tears themselves are the surrender. They are the "here I am." They are the "I need you." They are the "I trust you." Jesus welcomes this vulnerability, the way someone holds something fragile with infinite care. He does not reject the heart that has no words. He receives the heart that has truth. And when tears become prayer, something shifts inside. The weight begins to move. The knot in the soul starts to loosen. The person realizes, even subtly, that they are not praying alone. They are being heard, held, understood. You have kept count of my tossings, put my tears in your bottle. Are they not in your book? Psalm 56:8. Every tear becomes a memory before God. Nothing is lost, nothing goes unnoticed, nothing is too small. And it is in this understanding that even what falls from your eyes becomes prayer, that the heart begins to walk toward the next opening God desires to bring. There are moments when the heart breaks in a way the person did not expect. It is not destruction, it is transformation. Tears reveal places that had been rigid for far too long, areas where control grew so strong that there was no room left to feel. And when that point finally softens, God not only sees, He touches with loving intention. Brokenness is not the end of strength, but the restoration of sensitivity. Where there was hardness, now there is softness. Where there was defense, now there is openness. God uses this moment to reshape perceptions, realign emotions, and remove the roughness that keeps the soul from responding to His touch. It is like a clay vessel that needs to be softened before it can be shaped again. The potter does not reject the vessel that breaks. He remakes it with even greater care. This is how God deals with the soul that cries. He does not turn His eyes away. He does not pull back. He leans in to work on the exact place where the pain has flowed. Tears reveal where pride dissolves, where self-sufficiency melts, where resistance loses strength. And in that place of truth, the person begins to notice things they could not face before. The heart finds space to be honest with itself. And from that honesty, true change is born. Brokenness also exposes what had been hidden beneath routine. Old fears, ignored tensions, heavy expectations. But God does not reveal to shame. He reveals to heal. He brings light to inner areas that needed divine attention, and He does so gently, always at the right time. And as the soul surrenders, something new begins to form. It isn't immediate, obvious, or showy, but it is real. It is like dry soil softening under the first rain. Spiritual sensitivity returns, listening deepens, rigidity loses its grip. What breaks you does not diminish you, it prepares you. The sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart, O God, you will not despise. Psalm 51:17. God does not reject the heart that breaks, He takes it to shape it again. And in this silent, almost invisible process, a question begins to rise. What is God trying to soften in you through these tears? If this reflection is meeting you exactly where you needed, you are welcome to continue walking with us. There are moments when a person feels that something inside them is moving, yet they can't name what it is. Tears come not out of despair, but out of a quiet awakening. It's as if God is touching a deep place, revealing inner spaces that were once inaccessible, and that touch doesn't break, it opens. This is where true spiritual movement begins. When the soul opens, even just a little, God activates sensitivities that had been dormant. He awakens perceptions that could not be heard, while the mind was busy trying to protect itself. This kind of opening does not happen by accident. It is part of a divine process, that begins long before the tears and continues long after them. Tears become the visible sign of something invisible happening. They mark the moment when the heart stops resisting what God is trying to shape. It is not that God forces his way in, it is that the person finally allows him. Rigidity softens. Awareness expands. The soul begins to reorganize from the inside out. This inner movement can bring clarity where there was confusion, lightness where old heaviness lived, and discernment where there once were repeated patterns. God opens doors a person didn't know were closed. Emotional doors, spiritual doors, silent and deep doors. He reveals spaces that self-protection had locked away, and this opening is always gentle. God does not invade, he illuminates. He does not push, he invites. He does not demand, he awakens. Sometimes it is only a subtle sense of peace arriving in the midst of tears. Other times it is a sudden understanding of something that had been hidden in the heart. But there is always movement. There is always purpose. It is like the seed that must break open for life to begin to grow. The shell breaks not to injure, but to release what was already ready to emerge. So it is with those who cry before God. Something breaks so that something new can be born. What God opens is always greater than what seemed to be closing. He awakens gifts, restores vision, renews sensitivity, heals memories, and repositions the heart to live with greater depth. Opening is the first step of a transformation that will continue unfolding its fruits along the way. A new heart also will I give you, and a new spirit will I put within you. And I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you a heart of flesh. Ezekiel 36:26. A new heart does not form without opening. An opening almost always begins with tears. And when God begins to open something in you, it becomes impossible to remain exactly the same. This silent movement naturally leads to the next flow he desires to release inside you. There are tears that don't fall only from the eyes. They fall from deep places within the soul. They come down like a small, timid stream, yet they carry weights that had been stored away for far too long. Each drop seems to move something the person never knew how to loosen. It is healing happening quietly, like an inner river beginning to clear its own path. When these tears appear, it is not just emotion, it is cleansing. God uses crying to release tensions that were not formed in a single day. They are old memories, accumulated pressures, ignored pains, expectations that weighed more than they should. He moves all of this slowly, with the delicacy of one who knows where each emotional knot is hidden. Divine healing is rarely abrupt. It happens like water running over stones, like a river finding its way after being held back for too long. The person often cannot perceive the transformation while it is happening because it has no sound, no immediate shape, no spectacle. But it has depth, it has intention, it has grace. Tears become this first flow. They begin loosening what was stuck, clearing what was cloudy, and moving what was accumulated. God guides this process the way someone leads still waters toward a tired heart. He does not force. He invites the heart to release. As this flow increases, the soul begins to feel lighter, not a euphoric lightness, but a steady, quiet one, almost imperceptible, as if the chest could finally breathe with more space. Spiritual healing follows this rhythm, progressive, gentle, constant. What once was weight becomes movement. What once was build-up becomes passage. What once was shadow becomes rest. This inner river also brings back clarity. It washes away distorted perceptions, removes emotional fog, and restores spiritual sensitivity. The person begins to perceive God not only in great signs, but in small touches, in pauses, in the silence that once frightened, but now embraces. He restores my soul. He leads me beside still waters. Psalm 23:3. God not only heals, he refreshes. He calms, he guides the heart toward the kind of water that doesn't drown, but restores. And after this first flow of healing, something deeper begins to happen. The tears start revealing what previously could not be seen. There are tears that not only bring relief, they reveal. They illuminate inner areas a person avoided for a long time, spaces that stayed hidden beneath routine, responsibilities, and distractions. When crying reaches this level of depth, it doesn't speak only of pain, it speaks of truth. It is as if a gentle light enters through a newly opened crack. Tears bring to the surface feelings that were held back, silent fears, old insecurities, repeated patterns, unresolved memories. As the soul opens, it allows all of this to rise, not to crush, but to be seen in the light of grace. What was hidden loses power when it becomes visible before God. This kind of revelation is not abrupt. God does not expose to accuse. He exposes to heal. He shows with tenderness what needs care. He reveals with mercy what was being ignored. It is as if he says, I already knew this was here. Now you can see it too, and we will deal with it together. Sometimes this revelation comes as sudden understanding, an insight, a memory, a new perception. Other times it comes simply as an inner sense that something needs adjusting, releasing, or reorganizing. The form doesn't matter. What matters is that God is guiding the heart gently, never demanding more than it can give. And when this light enters, the person begins to notice patterns they had never seen before. Automatic behaviors, emotional reactions, spiritual blockages, everything becomes clearer. Crying makes visible what once lived in shadow, and that clarity doesn't add weight. It brings freedom. It is truth entering through the door that tears opened. This revelation also deepens communion with God. The more a person sees with honesty, the lighter their spiritual walk becomes. There are no masks, no performances, no rehearsed speeches. There is only authenticity. God works with that. He speaks more to a sincere heart than to a hardened one. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my thoughts. See if there be any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Psalm 139, 23, 24. It is a prayer for revelation, and tears are often the beginning of that process. What tears reveal is not meant to frighten, but to free. And it is exactly at that moment, when truth finally comes to the surface, that the deepest movement of surrender God desires to bring in you begins to take shape. There are tears that mark the exact moment the heart realizes it doesn't need to carry everything alone. They don't come to defeat, they come to release. When the soul finally recognizes its limits, tears fall as a sign of surrender. A surrender born not of weakness, but of trust. It is God showing that you were never meant to sustain what has weighed on you for so long. True surrender rarely happens when everything is under control. It arises when something inside admits, I can't keep going this way. And instead of being failure, it becomes the beginning of a new strength. Tears become the moment when emotional weight starts to slip away, allowing God to take the place formerly occupied by self-pressure. When a person lets go of what they were carrying, they discover that God was already prepared to sustain it. He does not require the heart to be strong all the time. He only asks the heart to be sincere. In surrender, the soul breathes in a way it hasn't in a long time, and that breath is always the beginning of something new. Tears also reveal what the person insisted on holding, sometimes out of fear, sometimes out of habit, sometimes out of believing they had to handle it. But when crying comes, it melts that illusion of self-sufficiency and makes it possible to recognize what no longer makes sense to carry. God acts exactly there, replacing effort with trust. Letting go is not abandoning responsibility. It is abandoning the weight. It is allowing God to lead what exceeds human capacity. It is giving Jesus room to soften the center of the soul and remove pressures that were never yours to carry. It is creating space for divine care to become more real than the anxiety you tried to hide. Surrender also changes how the heart perceives spiritual life. When a person releases what was heavy, space opens for new perceptions, new directions, new sensitivity. Faith stops being a constant struggle and becomes rest. Prayer stops being obligation and becomes refuge. The soul stops walking tense and starts walking guided. Cast your burden upon the Lord, and he will sustain you. He shall never permit the righteous to be moved. Psalm 55:22. The care God offers is stronger than any weight you tried to carry alone. And perhaps now the question is simple and profound at the same time. What is God inviting you to release today? If any part of this message is touching your heart, share a single word in the comments. Just one. It may open more than you imagine. After the crying settles, something quiet begins to happen inside the soul. It's as if the heart, now softened, starts to notice nuances that once went unnoticed. As tears remove inner rigidity, the spirit becomes more attentive, more gentle, more receptive. It is in this state of sensitivity that the whisper of God becomes clearer. When the soul is hardened, it hears noise but does not hear God. When it is hurried, it senses urgencies but not direction. But when tears soften the inner world, the heart enters a different kind of listening. Not anxious, not demanding, not restless. A listening that doesn't force answers, but welcomes presence. This spiritual sensitivity is not something manufactured. It emerges naturally when the heart opens. Everything God speaks takes on new depth. A simple word touches more deeply. A familiar verse reveals a new layer. A moment of silence becomes understanding. It is not emotion. It is perception. It is not effort. It is gentle revelation. Tears also remove inner distractions. A person stops fighting themselves, and for a few moments, everything inside comes into alignment. That's when the impressions of the Spirit become noticeable. They do not come as thunder, but as breeze, not as urgency, but as gentle guidance. Jesus becomes more visible in daily life, not because he was distant, but because the heart is now attentive. And when this listening deepens, many things lose their volume. Worry lessens, confusion quiets, anxiety dissolves. God speaks more to a broken heart than to a hardened one, not because he speaks more, but because now there is room to hear. This sensitivity also rekindles trust. A person realizes they are not walking alone, not making decisions blindly, not trying to interpret life without divine help. There is direction, there is presence, there is care. And all of this becomes even more real when the soul is open. Then the Lord called Samuel, and he said, "Speak, Lord, for your servant hears." 1 Samuel 3:10. A sensitive heart responds this way, without hurry, without fear, without resistance. And when deep listening happens, the next step becomes inevitable. Tears don't just cleanse or reveal or surrender. They begin to transform who you are. When the crying calms and the soul finds rest, something new begins to emerge within. It isn't a dramatic change, instantly visible, but a subtle and profound shift, the kind that blossoms quietly. Tears didn't just ease the weight, they cleared the way for a new kind of inner life. A person begins to notice that their way of walking through life is no longer the same. There is more gentleness in their thoughts, more clarity in their decisions, more peace in their steps. What once triggered anxiety now brings rest. What once confused now carries purpose. The touch of God is not limited to the moment of crying. It shapes everything that comes afterward. This transformation also reorganizes priorities. Things that once took up too much space begin to lose importance. Old wounds stop dictating reactions. The soul, now lighter, responds to life with renewed spirituality. It's as if the person discovers a steadier center within themselves. a center sustained not by their own strength, but by the constant presence of Jesus. And as this process deepens, a new maturity is born. Not perfection, but sensitivity. Not the absence of challenges, but clarity to face them. The person stops walking under pressure and starts walking guided. The change is not only emotional, it is spiritual. It is life being reorganized by grace. Tears open doors that reason could never open. They allow healing to enter, allow faith to breathe, allow the heart to respond with humility and gentleness. Transformation does not happen all at once. It happens continuously, like soft waves shaping the shore, little by little, without rush. And this transformation also makes the heart more attentive to the small evidences of God in everyday life. A whisper, a direction, an unexpected peace. The soul learns to interpret the divine touch with greater clarity, and this sensitivity gives the spiritual walk a depth that once felt out of reach. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, all things have become new. 2 Corinthians 5:17. The newness is not only in what God does around you, but in what He opens within you. And in the awakening of this new inner life, the heart begins to prepare for the final movement of this journey, the silent invitation God places before you at the end of this process. Now that you've walked through this entire journey, you may begin to see something that wasn't so clear at the beginning. Your tears were not just emotional reactions. They were silent pathways opening within you. Each one marked an inner movement, and every inner movement created space for God to touch places you had been holding for years. Little by little, what seemed like emotion proved to be revelation. What looked like fragility became evidence of construction. What you felt throughout this reflection was not coincidence. They were small signs that God was reaching sensitive areas of your heart, places you tried to protect, to hide, to keep firm, but that finally found the courage to breathe. Christ does not look at these places with pressure or demand. He looks with the patience of someone who knows exactly what he is forming. He looks with the tenderness of someone who sees value where you only saw struggle. As you move through each topic, you may have noticed flashes of understanding, memories surfacing, moments of lightness arriving unexpectedly. Maybe you sensed a peace that didn't come from circumstances, but from the silent touch of the Spirit. None of this happened by chance. God uses every word, every pause, every inner image to rearrange perceptions, clear old emotions, and open space for a new spiritual sensitivity. Jesus was with you through every step of this path. He heard what you couldn't verbalize. He received what slipped out as a sigh. He gathered every tear as something too precious to be lost. And this is how He turns what once felt like pain into spiritual depth, a depth you may not have even known you were ready to live. Now, as your soul finally breathes and the weight seems to have shifted away, two questions rise, not for quick answers, but for honest ones. What did God open inside you while you listened to this message? And what do you sense He is inviting you to surrender, release, or trust fully into His hands? These questions are not meant to produce anxiety. They are meant to bring direction. They do not point to pressure. They point to freedom. What God opens, He sustains. What God reveals, He heals. What God begins, He carries to completion. Before we close, allow yourself a simple, intimate, profoundly spiritual gesture. Offer God a single word, just one, that represents what He stirred, revealed, or began forming within you today. This word does not need to be beautiful or elaborate. It simply needs to be true. Let it become your silent prayer, your offering, your truth. God always hears what is spoken with the heart before He hears what is spoken with the mouth. And as this word forms within you, remember, God does not open something merely to begin. He opens to continue. What He started inside you today does not end with this video. It continues through your next days, your next decisions, your next silences. Christ does not walk only beside you. He now walks within the space that was opened today. If this reflection brought light to what was confused, peace to what was heavy, direction to what was misaligned, or simply a moment of rest you needed, I invite you to continue walking with us. There are other meditations here that can deepen what God began in you today. Each video is a new path, a new conversation, a new opportunity for your heart to breathe with more freedom. And if you wish to support this space of spiritual rest, subscribe and stay with us in the next journeys. Your presence here is part of what God is cultivating in your story. May Christ, the one who gathers every tear, sustains every step, and illuminates every shadow, be your steady rock, your safe path, and your constant light. May He continue opening space within your soul, gently, slowly, like someone shaping something precious. And may you continue moving forward with the quiet certainty that nothing touched today will be lost. Everything is being transformed, one step, one tear, one act of faith at a time.